This is World Now on TVC News. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin in West Africa, where Burkina Faso's transitional government has claimed to have foiled an attempted coup d'etat. The military leaders allege that officers and others had planned to destabilize the country and throw it into chaos. The following report takes a look at the latest developments in the landlocked West African country.
Lorsque les conditions seront réunies,
in a statement broadcast on national TV, the government informed the public of a proven coup attempt foiled by the Burkina Faso intelligence and security services. On Tuesday evening, thousands of people took to the streets of the capital, Ouagadougou, in response to a call from supporters of Captain Traoré to defend him in the face of rumors of a coup that were circulating on social networks. In December, the military prosecutor's office had already denounced an attempt to destabilize the regime and announced the arrest of military personnel. Earlier this week, the Burkinabe government had attacked the Jeune Afrique media, which had published 2 articles referring to tensions within the army. This alleged coup comes almost exactly 1 year after Captain Traoré seized power in a coup on September 30th, 2022. At the time, it was the second coup d'etat in 8 months in Burkina Faso, which has been plagued for almost 10 years by bloody jihadist violence over much of its territory. Inefficiency in the fight against insecurity was one of the main reasons put forward to justify the takeover. The attacks are particularly prevalent in the 3 border zones, which Burkina shares with Niger and Mali, 2 countries also ruled by military leaders who came into power through coup d'etat. Since 2015, the violence in Burkina alone has claimed more than 17,000 lives and displaced more than 2 million people. Last week, the Burkina Faso government announced that by the 31st of August, almost 200,000 displaced persons had returned to their homes in several regions of the country, claiming to have reclaimed areas once occupied by terrorists. Despite these actions, attacks attributed to groups linked to Al-Qaeda continue on a regular basis throughout most of Burkina Faso.
Well, joining us to discuss the increasing spate of coups in West Africa is an African affairs analyst, Victor Hai. Thank you for joining us on The World Now. The situation in Burkina Faso, what do we call it now? Coup within a coup. How do you react to this latest developments there?
It wasn't altogether unexpected. I expect the same to happen in Mali. I expect the same to happen in Niger as well. Truth is, the French are not going to leave this the way it is. Frankly, the coup that took place in Mali and Burkina Faso before Niger were clear disruptions in a system that has always worked in favor of France. And I expect them to, I mean, it's clear, you might say their hands are not in there, but it's so clear that what these coups greatly pose an existential threat to the very existence or economic survival of France as a nation. And so they're not going to take this lying, and I expect that there will be a lot of sponsored coups, mutinies, and propaganda against these 3 nations. And well, of course, Gabon is not part of it because that was just a family-to-family transition. So it was not expected. I expect it to happen in all of this. They will not relent until they take over.
So, Mr. Hai, in the case of Burkina Faso, do you see the hand of France in this foiled coup, or is it just an uprising of the people for being disgruntled about the leadership in place in that country?
I do not think it is. I mean, obviously, there will be, if you like, sanctions and the painful period that they will go through, a transitional period of belt tightening, but the people are not complaining about the regime, for sure. Whatever you see may just be sponsored. The people are not complaining about the regime. They're quite happy about the government in power. And as you can see, whether some might argue that it was sponsored, but clearly people have gone out there to demonstrate in favor of the regime.
You're saying that people are not complaining about this, but don't you think that the sanctions imposed on that country the world over could just have some kind of impact on its people, increasing their suffering at this time?
That is the intended consequence, and that is the intended reaction. But I don't think the Burkina Faso. I mean, they for so long the average Francophone, if I may use that language, has always known the shackles that they have been held under, if you like, a second bondage of slavery, of colonialism that they have been held under by France, with all the things that they signed all these years. They just never had the courage. And if the few leaders who attempted to speak out were routed through coups, such as sponsored coups, such as this one that was attempted recently. The average person in the Francophone countries is not happy with the way things are, and they would rather be free. That's the truth. They would rather decide who they want to do business with. They know that, but they lack the courage because there have been consequences all the while. You will recall that when Mali gained independence and they tried to gain total independence from the French, it was said that the French went and then, all the pipes in Bamako, in the capital and around there, they put cement and blocked all the pipes. It was like saying, look, for daring to oppose us, all the things that we put here, we're going to damage them. And Mali was beaten back in line, and that's who the French are. It's clear. It's not. You see, it's okay for us to try and be diplomatic in the way we speak, but the truth is that the kind of agreement that the French gave is like you release a goat and you're holding on to the teether. Who does that? You sell a goat to a man and you are holding on to the teether. Then obviously you've not let go. That is what the Francophone countries have been under all of these years. You know what those agreements are like, and you know that these are very, very ungodly, if I may use that language, agreements. And this is the only reason France is surviving and not struggling like the rest of Europe. I mean, where you have the only real strong economies in Europe, or major strong economy in Europe, is Germany. France is what it is only because of the colonies.
Prime Minister High. Yes, as it is, coups are on the rise in Africa, and there are concerns it may take the continent back, by decades, really. What practical steps can be taken to stem this in the bud?
Well, I will say this to you. The regime has already promised that they will hand over to a democratically elected government by July. That should suffice. Nobody wants a military regime. But in the case of the Francophone countries, obviously what you find is that the civilian regimes, they are not exactly the will of the people. They are there at the pleasure of the French. It's who the French government endorses and gets into power. And they perpetuate them in power, which is why I find people like Paul Biya and some of these other people lasting as long as they are. They stay as long as they are happy with you, you can be there forever. So nobody wants a military regime, clearly, certainly not I. But if that is what it will take to free the people and return them back to democracy in the French country, so be it.
And when you talk about returning them to democracy, do you have a time frame in mind, or is it just as long as the military rulers choose?
No, I said it earlier on. I mentioned it earlier on that the regime has promised that by July next year there will be a full return to democracy.
So you trust them?
That already, and it's in place.
You trust them to stick with that time frame, right?
Well, the truth is, when it happens, we know, and it's left for the people of Burkina Faso to decide whether they trust them or not. We can only observe. I'm not a judge of character, but I do know that they have given their word, and the world will judge them by